Welcome to the Johnny Fongo Show. I am Johnny Fongo. It is May 2nd, 2021. We've got a ton of news to look at. Let's get into it. Some headlines. Let's look at those real quick. Afanor Growers files for patent protection in 11 additional countries. 2:54 p.m. Globe News Wire yesterday, Saturday, 5/1/21. Next up, legalized pot is coming from Barron's, 9:30 p.m. Equality takes root in the pot industry, Barron's, 9:30 p.m. They had a lot of stories out on Friday. Phyto Extractions announces interim CEO and director transition, 9:21 p.m. Access Newswire, Friday. Grown Rogue grants options and issue share, 7:53 p.m. Sugarbud announces positive EBITDA result for Q4 2020 and filing operating results for the year ended December 31, 2020. CanTrust announces court approval for $22.5 million debtor in possession and CCAA exit credit facility financing. Eve & Company announces financial results for last year ended December 31st, 2020. Blueberry's medical reports 2020 financial results. A lot of that news out here, financial results, quarterly earnings coming out right now. Captor Capital announces non-brokered private placement. Hydroponics producer Hydrofarm prices $269 million offering led by J.P. Morgan Stifel. 5:01 p.m. Benzinga. Germany opening up to hemp as government funds CBD research. WikiLeaf Technologies report financial results for the 2020 fiscal year. Kevin Miller recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year in the 2021 American Business Awards. That comes out at 3:50 p.m. A PR Newswire. Congratulations, Kevin Miller. You deserve it. Tech for Can. Europe's Cannabis Tech Accelerator raises $3 million, 2:28 p.m. on Benzinga. Mercer Board Acquisition Corp. files preliminary prospectus for proposed qualifying transaction with Glass House Group. 2:17 p.m. Newswire. Jim Belushi, Grow Generation Partner to build Oregon Cannabis Greenhouse, 1:39 p.m. Benzinga. Green Thumb Industries raises $217 million, closes senior non-brokered private placements of note. Pura and ALKM confirm additional CBD-infused products for slated development. CityView Green Holdings Incorporated receives processing license for Health Canada, 12:51 p.m. Newswire. IM Cannabis acquires Israel's largest retail and online pharmacy business from Panaxia, creating a vertically integrated global platform for the IMC brand. That was 12:20 p.m. on Friday. Michigan's cannabis market, what investors, entrepreneurs need to know, 11:30 a.m. Benzinga. We've got so many to look at. We're looking at here, looks like Grapefruit launches a new e-commerce store providing nationwide one-stop shop for its TH-free, hemp-derived, hourglass-powered CBD topical cream. 9:50 a.m. Globe Newswire. M. Jarden Group announces fourth quarter and full year 2020 financial results. 9:50 Globe Newswire. Green Lane and Kush Company announce future enterprise leadership team for proposed combined company. Hemp Incorporated continues massive expansion in Florida. Haven't heard that name in a while. That's an oldie but a goodie. Hemp Incorporated. 9:47 a.m. Globe Newswire on Friday. All right, there's more and more here to get into, but we're going to jump into some stories right now. We're going to bring Mia in to talk about a few stories for us right quick here. Go ahead and take it away, Mia.
Legalized pot is coming, Barron's. April 30th, 1921, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Dow Jones. While investors chased Canada's pot stocks, they ignored the faster-growing U.S. cannabis industry. Already profitable, multi-state operators like Curaleaf, Green Thumb, and TruLive will flourish as state and federal obstacles fall away. By Max A. Cheney and Connor Smith. Russia, in the capital-starved, legal murk of the early 1990s, prepared Boris Jordan well for America's cannabis industry. Today, as the 54-year-old Jordan runs the biggest licensed marijuana company in the world, Curaleaf Holdings. The challenges of the U.S. cannabis industry remind him of his days as a banker and investor on Russia's capitalist frontier. It was a very tough environment to operate in, Jordan recalls of Russia's post-communist chaos. Whole industries needed inventing, and the legal ground under businesses shifted constantly. But that was the opportunity. American cannabis companies such as Curaleaf Etica, CULF, Green Thumb Industries GEBIF, TrueLive Cannabis TCNF, and Cresco Labs CLBF have licenses to operate in states that allow weed under their laws. Yet the industry has been bedeviled by marijuana's illegality under U.S. federal law. That's why Curaleaf has a $9 billion market cap, but still trades over the counter, with its lone listing on the small Canadian Securities Exchange. Many investors know only Canadian producers such as Canopy Growth CGC, Tilray TLRY, or Afria APJ, whose wholly legal Canadian activities let them list on the Nasdaq, even as their sales trail the U.S. operators, and they lose money. Now, events are breaking in favor of the American operators. On April 19, the House of Representatives passed a bill by a 3-1 margin that would allow the pot industry to use the federally regulated banking system. Senate Democratic leaders support a matching bank bill. Meanwhile, COVID-19 has left state governments desperate for tax revenue. New York, Virginia, and New Mexico recently joined the 13 states that have allowed recreational sales to adults. Over time, recreational sales will probably come to the 20 states that now allow sale by prescription. That could spur the remaining state holdouts to fall in line, if federal legalization doesn't happen first. So, sales can't help but grow. Sales at the U.S. cannabis chain. Equality takes root in the pot industry, Barron's. April 30, 1921, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Dow Jones. By Connor Smith. In 2019, New Jersey and New York were expected to be the first states to legalize cannabis sales without a voter referendum. But the bills flopped in their state legislatures, defeated not by conservatives, but by progressive Democrats. The reform plans hadn't addressed the disproportionate historical impact of marijuana convictions on black communities, said critics. Marijuana use is uniform across all demographics, but many studies showed that people of color were arrested for possession at rates over 3 times higher than white people. Hoping to help correct this, Illinois became the first state legislature to permit recreational pot sales to adults, in a 2019 bill that made sure that the resulting business opportunities wouldn't all go to affluent white folks. When New York's legislature finally legalized recreational sales this year, social justice was prioritized. New York State Assembly Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes tells Barron's that her colleagues learned from watching other states' legalization programs. Their first thought was, how do you get access to all this underground revenue that can then be used to help support municipal or state government services, says Peoples-Stokes. So, we kind of flipped that and said, equity is our first thought. The New York bill, signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo in March, includes a goal for 50% of licenses to go to minority or women-owned businesses, distressed farmers, or service-disabled veterans. After covering the costs of the program, revenue from cannabis taxes will be split, with 40% going toward education, 40% to a community grants reinvestment fund, and 20% going to a drug treatment and public education fund. Phyto Extractions announces interim CEO and director transition. April 30, 1921, 9:21 p.m. Eastern Time. AccessWire. Langley, BC. AccessWire, April 30, 2021. Phyto Extractions Incorporated, formerly Adastra Labs Holdings Limited. CSE, XTX announces that interim CEO J. Scott Munro has transitioned from his roles as interim CEO and director of the company to new external ventures. With his experience in C-suite positions in various private and public companies, and wealth of management knowledge, Munro served as a seasoned driver whose role as interim CEO and director steadily steered Phyto Extractions on its continued growth trajectory, overseeing a new project category launch and several corporate operational improvements. Scott Munro has made his own patch on the tapestry of Phyto Extractions history. Phyto Extractions has seen vast improvements across operations and the financial health of the company during his tenure, which isn't an easy task for any senior manager, said Donald Dinsmore, Chief Operating Officer. We are grateful for Munro's support and the improvements he has made for the company during his period as interim CEO, and we wish him all the best in his new endeavors. The company has identified a new permanent candidate for the role of CEO and an additional director to fill the vacancy created by Mr. Munro's transition. The company expects to announce such appointments in the immediate future. The company anticipates that such appointments will continue the great work completed to date that has positioned the brand of providing quality cannabis products to its valued customers. Phyto Extractions will continue executing on its operational excellence, securing ever-increasing market share and positioning itself as one of the leading cannabis brand name products, with the help of its wholly-owned subsidiaries Adastra Labs Incorporated and testing lab Chamia Analytics Inc. About Phyto Extractions Tea. Phyto Extractions Incorporated is a Langley, BC-based cannabis company with a co-located Health Canada licensed standard processing facility and analytical testing laboratory. Pioneering in cannabis products like shatter and extracts, Phyto Extractions Tea adopts strict in-process quality tests for cannabis extraction methods like hydrocarbon and cryoethanol extractions to ensure high-quality extracts are enjoyed by cannabis enthusiasts. The company offers a range of products from vape cartridges to pure cannabis extracts that can be incorporated into daily usage. Grown Rogue grants options and issues shares. April 30, 1921, 7:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Business Wired print. Grown Rogue International Incorporated, a Grown Rogue, or the company, CSE, GRIN OTC, GRASF, a multi-state cannabis company with operations and assets in Oregon and Michigan, has announced that it has issued a total of 385,000 common shares to certain directors, contractors, and employees of the company relating to amounts owed for services rendered. The company also issued 400,000 common shares to certain investors in Golden Harvests, LLC, a Golden Harvests, in exchange for a reduction of debt owed to Golden Harvests in the amount of $100,000. In addition, the company issued 600,000 common shares in satisfaction of certain option payments owing to Canopy Management, LLC, a Canopy Management, in accordance with the option agreement entered into on February 4, 2021, providing Grown Rogue Unlimited, LLC the right to acquire 87% of Canopy Management, which shares were directed to be issued to certain owners of Golden Harvests in accordance with the option agreement between Canopy Management and the owners of Golden Harvests entered into on February 4, 2021, providing Canopy Management the right to acquire 60% of Golden Harvests. All of the above-mentioned common shares were issued at a price of 25 cents per share. Sugarbud announces positive EBITDA result for Q4 2020 and filing of financial and operating results for the year ended December 31, 2020. April 30, 1921, 6:57 p.m. Eastern Time. Globe Newswire print. Sugarbud Craft Growers Corporation, TSEC v. SUGR, SUGR.db, SUGR.wr, SUGR.ws, SUGR.wait, OECQB, SPUF. Sugarbud is pleased to announce that the company recorded its first positive EBITDA result in Q4 2020, and the filing of its audited consolidated annual financial statements, related management's discussion and analysis (MD&A), and annual information form (AIF) for the year ended December 31, 2020, which are available on CD at www.cd.com and on Sugarbud's website at www.sugarbud.ca. 2020 was a pivotal and exciting year for Sugarbud as we completed our first full year of operations as a craft cannabis producer, culminating with our first positive EBITDA result of $89,998 in Q4 2020 and our fourth consecutive quarter of EBITDA growth. Despite an exceptionally challenging environment, we made meaningful and substantial progress against our primary operational and commercial objectives in a very short period of time. Much of 2020 was focused on establishing a firm foundation of operational excellence, developing our innovative and diverse product portfolio, successfully launching our craft cannabis collection, and expanding our reach to consumers in key markets such as Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan, stated John Kondrowski, President and CEO of Sugarbud. CannTrust announces court approval for $22.5 million Canadian debtor in possession and CCAA exit credit facility financing. April 30, 1921, 6:14 p.m. Eastern Time, PR Newswire print. CannTrust Holdings Incorporated, a CannTrust, or the company, unlisted, announced today that it has obtained approval from the Ontario Superior Court of Justice, a commercial list, under the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act of Canada, the CCAA, for the company's previously announced debtor in possession (DIP) and CCAA exit credit facility, a credit facility, arranged and agent by Cortland Credit Lending Corporation. As announced by the company on April 20, 2021, the credit facility consists of a revolving loan under which repayments and additional drawdowns will be permitted from time to time, provided that the amounts owing under the credit facility shall not exceed the borrowing limit of $22.5 million Canadian dollars. The credit facility will have a term of 12 months, which may be extended for an additional 12 months upon mutual agreement. The credit facility will be secured by a first-ranking security interest over all assets of CannTrust, subject to certain permitted encumbrances and certain excluded assets, and, during the pendency of the CCAA proceedings, a first-ranking super-priority DIP financing charge, subject to some limited exceptions. Funds advanced under the credit facility will be used to fund CannTrust's working capital needs and support the restoration of its operations, so that CannTrust can continue to rebuild stakeholder trust while delivering quality, innovative products to its patients and consumers. The company intends to file on www.cd.com a copy of the definitive term sheet relating to the credit facility, redacted to omit certain commercially sensitive information that has been sealed by order of the court. CannTrust remains under CCAA protection to facilitate its efforts to resolve its civil litigation claims and complete its review of strategic alternatives, which includes a review of financing options. Aspects of the ongoing efforts remain confidential, and the company is unable to predict with any certainty either their timing or outcome. In the meantime, the reinstatement of its cannabis licenses and the restoration of its ongoing operations, CannTrust's re-entry into the Canadian recreational and medical cannabis business segments, and its entry into the restructuring support agreement are essential to the company's focus on rebuilding its franchise.
All right, thank you, Mia. Those are some great stories you brought to us. Very enlightening. Next up, we have a great story about Kevin Miller being recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year in 2021 American Business Awards. Congratulations, Kevin. You deserve it. We're going to bring Guy in to talk about this story.
Hydroponics producer Hydrofarm prices $269 million offering lead by J.P. Morgan, Stifel. April 30, 5:01 p.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga, print. The ancillary cannabis company Hydrofarm Holdings Group Incorporated, NASDAQ, HYFM, announced Wednesday that it priced an underwritten public offering of 4.81 million of its shares at a price of $59 per share to collect roughly $269.3 million. The lead book running managers for the offering are J.P. Morgan and Stifel, while Deutsche Bank Securities, Truist Securities, and William Blair were chosen as book running managers. The hydroponics equipment producer has provided the underwriters with a 30-day option to buy an extra 720,894 shares at the public offering price, minus the discounts and commissions. The Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania-based company projects that the offering will end on May 3, upon the completion of standard closing requirements. Hydrofarm's recent activities. Just 2 days prior to the offering, Hydrofarm confirmed that it entered into an agreement to buy the plant nutrients producer Field 16, LLC, for around $78.1 million in cash and credit and $15 million in stock. Field 16 is known for its line of nutrients known as Heavy 16. As a leading hydroponics company, a key component of our growth strategy is to bring dynamic brands like Heavy 16 under the Hydrofarm umbrella and continue to solidify our position as the acquirer of choice in this highly fragmented and fast-growing industry, said Bill Toller, Hydrofarm's chairman and CEO. Controlled environment agriculture is in the midst of a revolution and poised to be the most significant new market category to emerge in a generation. This is the company's first purchase since its IPO in December 2020. The transaction is expected to be finalized in May. Price action. Hydrofarm shares gained 0.23% Friday, closing at $65.70. Germany opening up to hemp as government funds CBD research. April 30, 4:56 p.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga, print. Germany, along with the rest of Europe, seems to be opening up to the idea of researching and accepting the many benefits of the cannabis plant. This is significant in view of the fact that only several months ago, hemp vendors were arrested and convicted in Braunschweig for selling hemp tea leaves. The case, however, was later overturned by Germany's Federal Court of Justice. And now the German government is funding a Berlin-based food startup, Becanex GmbH, to the tune of €505,000, $601,720, to create cannabinoid-containing emulsions for industrial food production, reports High Times. What makes the investment so important, reports High Times, is that the funding entity, the Central Innovation Program for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, is under the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, which is about as central to German economic investment in the future as you can get. The move will likely not go unnoticed throughout Europe. It was only in November that the European Court of Justice ruled that CBD is not a narcotic. The consequences of that ruling are being felt today as commercialization begins to take off. In addition to Becanex's food research, Hemp Today reported that Dusseldorf-based Hempro International GmbH has submitted an application to Germany's Consumer Protection and Food Safety Office that would allow it to import hemp leaves from Austria to Germany to make, yes, hemp tea. Currently, Germany allows cultivation of hemp with less than 0.2% THC, and also the purchase of CBD products with the same amount of THC, although CBD edibles are illegal under the novel food regulation in Europe.
Thank you, Guy. Those are some great stories right there. Just fascinating information all the way across the board. Good to hear all these stories. We're going to get into the week in cannabis here from Benzinga and look over some of what they have to say. As always, this is a huge resource for anybody that's a trader. If you're not on Benzinga, I would definitely find your way there and start looking at their content. It's not just cannabis based, it's broad based stock research, but they have got their ear to the ground and they bring us the consumer trader or professional trader. They bring us great information and constant, and that's the thing about this particular sector and my podcast is I am never for a lack of information to share, which is fascinating. So let's get into this. We're going to bring in Natasha real quick to talk about this one for us. Take it away, Natasha.
The Week in Cannabis, PA, MD, Big Tobacco, GTI, Sundial, MedMen, Earnings, Financings and more. April 30th, 1921, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga, print. Cannabis stocks traded mostly in the green this week, as we got into earnings season. While there were a lot of companies reporting earnings, like Turning Point Brands, who gave guidance of $422 million for 2021, I thought the biggest piece of data came from Pennsylvania, Deborah Borkard, editor-in-chief of Green Market Report, told Benzinga. The state reported that in 1 year it had sold over $900 million in medical marijuana. This demonstrates the demand for cannabis in this state, and bodes well for any future adult use legalization. This is also a big number when one considers that the program has only just gotten underway. And, while Pennsylvania sales surpassed $900 million in 1 year, Maryland sales finally hit $1 billion, more than 3 years after the medical cannabis program launched in December of 2017. Meanwhile, the Swiss-American multinational Philip Morris International Incorporated, NYSE, PM, maker of Marlboro cigarettes, said it's considering getting into the cannabis industry. The company is currently analyzing key components of the industry, such as the toxicity of cannabis, efficacy and differences between pharmaceutical and consumer options. CEO Andrei Kalantzopoulos reportedly said, "We are doing all this work, and will determine one day what avenues to pursue. But our priority is what we're doing with our smoke-free products, and that's where I would stay on cannabis." Benzinga cannabis content is now available in Spanish on El Planteo. This is not the first foray of Big Tobacco into the cannabis industry. In 2018, Altria Group Incorporated, NYSE, MO, invested $2.4 billion, $1.8 billion in Kronos Group Incorporated, NASDAQ, CRAN, and only last month, British American Tobacco plc, NYSE, BTI, confirmed a $221 million investment in Organogram Holdings Incorporated, NASDAQ, OGI. ETFs posted mostly positive performances over the 5 trading days of this week. Times the ETF MG Alternative Harvest ETF, NYSE, MJ gained 1%. Times the AdvisorShares Pure Cannabis ETF, NYSE, YOLO advanced 2.8%. Times the AdvisorShares Pure US Cannabis ETF, NYSE, MSOS rose 6.7%. Times the Cannabis ETF, NYSE, THCX was up 1.8%. Times the Amplify Seymour Cannabis ETF, NYSE, CNBS was down 0.37%. Times the SPDR S&P 500 ETF Trust, NYSE, SPY, closed the week almost flat. On the policy front, U.S. lawmakers introduced a bipartisan, bicameral bill to study the various impacts of state-legalized cannabis programs. The bill would assess both medical and recreational cannabis programs and their economic, public health, criminal justice, and workplace effects. The study would also look at revenue streams generated by legal marijuana markets, how the revenue is used and how it impacts state budgets. Aside from financial metrics, the study would look at consumption among population groups, medicinal usage, and the impact of cannabis on the opioid crisis. Policy, science and data. According to a recent report from the Brightfield Group, the U.S. cannabis market is set to reach $30.6 billion by 2025. In Florida, 2 businesses looking to open medical cannabis dispensaries in downtown Miami have filed lawsuits against the city, which has refused to authorize dispensary openings, despite the fact that the state legalized medical cannabis in 2016 by way of a constitutional amendment that was passed with a 71% approval rate. Texas continues to ease restrictions for its medical cannabis program. This week, several cannabis-related measures were approved in the House, including a proposal to research the potential of psychedelics, such as psilocybin and MDMA, and to expand the state's medical cannabis program by adding more qualifying conditions to the list. Under this bill, the Department of State Health Services would add cancer, chronic pain and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, to its list of qualifying conditions. It could also raise the THC cap for medical cannabis products from 0.5% to 5%. Financings and M&A. Green Thumb Industries Incorporated, CSE, GTII, OTCQX, GTBIF, raised $217 million to retire its existing $105 million senior secured debt due May 2023, finalizing a senior non-brokered private placement financing via the issuance of senior secured notes. Sundial Growers Incorporated, NASDAQ, SNDL, upped its financial commitment to Sunstream Bancorp Incorporated to $188 million from the previously announced $100 million. Back in March, the company first announced it has agreed to establish a 50/50 joint venture with the SAF Opportunities LP, a member of the SAF Group, via a new corporation, Sunstream Bancorp. The joint venture was created with a goal to produce investment opportunities in the cannabis sphere by offering exposure to attractive debt, equity, and hybrid investments. MedMen Enterprises Incorporated, CSE, MMEN, OTCQX, MMNFF, cancelled warrants to acquire 97,785,140 Class B subordinate voting shares of the company. The move comes after 2 consecutive quarters of positive retail cash flow. Ascend Wellness Holdings Incorporated is poised to go public through an initial public offering of some 10 million shares of its Class A common stock at $8 per share, for total gross proceeds of $80 million. The company expects to close the offering and then debut on the Canadian Securities Exchange on Tuesday, May 4th under the ticker symbol AAWH. An OTCQX best market listing is also anticipated. Also this week, Ascend opened a new store in downtown Boston. Acreage Holdings Incorporated, OTCQX, ACRGF, sold its Florida operations to Red White and Bloom Brands Incorporated, CSE, RWB, OTCQX, RWBYF, for $60 million in cash, stock and vendor takeback promissory notes. Columbia Care Incorporated, NEO, CCHW, CSE, CCHW, OTCQX, CCHWF, FSE, 3LP, acquired a 34-acre cultivation facility in Long Island, New York in a $42.5 million stock and cash deal. The Valence Company Incorporated, TSX, VLNS, OTCQX, VLNCF, is poised to take over Green Roads in a cash and stock transaction valued at $40 million. Headset raised $1.825 million in a round led by Silverleaf Venture Partners. WGD Capital, LP and Poseidon also participated in the financing. IM Cannabis Corporation, CSE, IMCC, NASDAQ, IMCC's Israeli subsidiary, IMC Holdings Limited, will acquire a trading house and in-house pharmacy activities from the Panaxia Labs Israel Limited group of companies for $7.2 million. Acquired Sales Corporation, OTCQX, AQSP, subsidiary Lifted Made and Savage Enterprises partnered to create an equally owned new entity called LFTDXSVG LLC to make and sell products containing hemp-derived THCV, tetrahydrocannabivarin. Halo Collective Incorporated, NEO, Halo, OTCQB, HCANF, FSE, a 9KN, and Red Light Holland Corporation, CSE, TRIP, FSE, 4YX, ODC, TRUF, are forming a 50/50 joint venture. Red Light Oregon Incorporated is poised to keep track of regulatory updates related to Oregon's Measure 109, as well as form a management team, and develop a commercialization strategy. It will be funded with $50,000 from each party. Medical Cannabis Tech Accelerator Techfican Europe raised €2.5 million, $3 million, from Malta Enterprise, the island's governmental innovation agency.
All right, thank you. That's a great deal of information to digest. Really appreciate you taking care of that for us. Next up, we're going to look at a story about Tech for Can. Europe's Cannabis Tech Accelerator raises $3 million. Always like to talk about stories that feature Europe or a global bend on things. We are going to bring in Arya to talk about this story for us. Take it away, Arya.
Tech for Can, Europe's Cannabis Tech Accelerator, raises $3 million. April 30th, 2:28 p.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga, print. Medical Cannabis Tech Accelerator Tech for Can Europe announced this week that it raised €2.5 million, $3 million, from Malta Enterprise, the island's governmental innovation agency. The organization will seek to support early-stage entrepreneurs in the European medical cannabis market, which is expected to reach more than $36 billion in sales by 2027, growing at a CAGR of almost 30%. At Tech for Can Europe, we believe that technology can address industry challenges that remain a barrier of entry to the biotech, pharma, and high-tech sectors to enable growth, CEO Lilac Mandels told Benzinga. The European cannabis market is mainly for medical use and includes specific regulatory and industry-challenging requirements, she added. According to Mandels, Tech for Can's goal is to identify and lead the next breakthrough startups to success, focusing on early-stage startups that answer industry challenges. Tech for Can Europe was created by Israel-based entrepreneurs Mandels and Yona Simerman. Mandels is a former pharmaceutical executive with experience at J&J, Lilly and Teva. Simerman co-founded a medical cannabis business development agency in Israel and ran her own strategic marketing firm for 12 years. The first cohort of the accelerator is expected to get underway by September 2021. Jim Belushi, Grow Generation partner to build Oregon Cannabis Greenhouse. April 30th, 1:39 p.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga, print. Grow Generation Corp., NASDAQ, GRWG, announced Friday that it has partnered with entertainer, activist, and cannabis entrepreneur Jim Belushi to build a new, state-of-the-art cannabis greenhouse on Belushi's farm in Oregon. GrowGen has deployed a team of Grow Pros to provide on-site consultations and install the new greenhouse system at Belushi's farm. The facility will cultivate premium medical and recreational cannabis, producing signature brands such as Cherry Pie, Belushi's Secret Stash, the Blues Brothers, and Captain Jack's, also known as the Smell of SNL. Our Grow Pros work with every Grow Generation customer to provide customized services and solutions for their particular growing environment with a focus on improved crop quality and yield, Jeremy Corau, Vice President of Commercial Operations at Grow Generation, told Benzinga. We've spent several weeks on the ground with Jim and his team at Belushi's farm planning a top-of-the-line controlled growing environment that will solve for common problems like pests and mold, and while optimizing the natural advantages of the farm's sunny southern Oregon setting. Grow Generation has more than 50 stores across the U.S., including 2 stores in Oregon, where Belushi's farm is headquartered. Canadian cannabis, why this penny stock is arguably the best value. April 30th, 12:25 p.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga, print. Top Canadian cannabis stocks, including Tilray Inc., NASDAQ, TLRY, Afri Inc., NASDAQ, APHA, and Aurora Cannabis Inc., NYSE, ACB, have been red hot in the last 6 months. On Friday, Cantor Fitzgerald analyst Pablo Zuanic said Canadian cannabis penny stock Auxly Cannabis Group Inc., OTCQX, CBWTF, is arguably the best value among Canadian legal producers. The Auxly analyst, Zuanic, has an outperform rating and 69-cent price target for Auxly, representing more than 100% upside from its current level of around 30 cents. Related link, 6 long-term themes cannabis investors should watch. The Auxly thesis. Auxly is now the 5th largest Canadian LP in terms of domestic recreational sales, accounting for about 4% market share in the fourth quarter of 2020. Hi-Fire data suggests Auxly's retail sales dropped about 10% in the first quarter of 2021 in what was a difficult quarter for the Canadian market as a whole. Vapes represent about 71% of Auxly's sales, and Zuonic estimates the company holds about 21% market share in the segment. Flower sales accounts for another 12% of Auxly's business. The company's management has suggested Auxly will reach break-even EBITDA by the end of 2021. In our view, fundamentals are not reflected in the valuation. 1.5x CY22 sales versus 6-16x for the four larger LPs, based on our estimates, nor is the optionality from Imperial Tobacco, MB.LON/NC, owning convertible debt that could give it a 19.9% stake in the company, Zuonic said. The analyst said he anticipates Auxly will list on a U.S. exchange at some point, which should be a bullish catalyst for the stock. He also said Auxly has relatively low execution risk compared to other mid-sized Canadian cannabis companies given its strong 2020 numbers, including 45% sequential growth in the fourth quarter. Cannabis acquires Israel's largest retail and online pharmacy business from Panaxia, creating a vertically integrated global platform for the IMC brand. April 30th, 12:20 p.m. Eastern Time, Access Wire, Print. With Israel's fast-paced e-commerce adoption and cannabis market's high growth rate, averaging 4% per month, Panaxia's online platform to support patient base expansion. Acquisition broadens IMC's patient offering in Israel, facilitates stronger direct patient relationships, and enables the company to grow its IMC brand awareness. Offers additional opportunity to generate revenue and margin on third-party products, and is synergistic with IMC's premium and super premium Canadian indoor production portfolio. Adds key storage, distribution, and delivery capabilities, plus established call center to support growth as Israeli market prepares for potential adult-use recreational cannabis legalization. Michigan's cannabis market, what investors, entrepreneurs need to know. April 30th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga. Despite numerous companies jumping into the cannabis space in the Great Lakes state, operators say Michigan's early success in the legal adult use market has them anticipating even more positive days to come. A growing cannabis market, many in the industry say they're optimistic about Michigan's booming legal market, launched in December 2019, as its strong performance shows no sign of slowing down. Data from analytics firm Headset shows that cannabis revenue for March 2021 alone had reached $115.4 million, setting a new record for the Wolverine state. Josh Genderson, founder and CEO of vertically integrated Holistic Industries, said that Michigan has been big on cannabis for some time, pointing out that medical marijuana was legalized in 2008. He called Michigan's successful industry the closest thing to the California market in the Midwest. Genderson, like many, draws a connection between Michigan's revenue growth to its successful adult use program. Vinny Seleny, co-founder of High Life Farms, gives credit to the state's long-running cannabis supporters and buyers. The consumers are already there, he said. Fabian Monaco, CEO of Gage Cannabis Company, pointed to the state's consistently strong performance, including its medical patient enrollment and annual sales revenue. Another plus for the market is the limited MSO presence typically found in uncapped markets, he said. Since the Michigan market is highly competitive, MSOs are still targeting limited license states where competition is low and easy, Monaco said, adding that the MSO void enabled his company to build its presence in Michigan, which he also views as one of the top 5 markets in the nation. Many credit Michigan's marijuana regulatory agency for establishing a successful market.
All right, thank you, Aria. Great story there. Next up, Cannabis acquires Israel's largest and online pharmacy business from Panaxia, creating a vertically integrated global platform for the IMC brand. I'll bring Mia back in to talk about this one further. All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have Ascend Wellness opens huge cannabis supermarket in Boston. That sounds incredible. Wish I was in Boston. First, I want to take a second to thank everybody for listening. This one today is a little bit different. I've had some equipment issues here at the studio, so I've had to kind of depend on my virtual readers a little bit more on this particular podcast. Should have this wrapped up in no time and be back to kind of a regular format, hopefully. With that being said, we do like to play around with our format here at Johnny Fongo and have a little fun, so you never know what might happen here on this show. Also, just want to say we have a social media presence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. So please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know how you like what's going on. Let us know if you have any things you want us to look at. We don't mind doing a little extra research if you've got a ticker that you're interested in. All right, we're going to have Clara finish up the day for us with a story about Ascend Wellness and a few others. Take it away, Clara.
Ascend Wellness opens huge cannabis supermarket in Boston. April 30th, 10:51 a.m. ET, Benzinga. Vertically integrated cannabis company Ascend Wellness Holdings has opened a new store in downtown Boston. The move follows the company's announcement. Ascend Wellness opens huge cannabis supermarket in Boston. April 30th, 10:51 a.m. ET, Benzinga. Vertically integrated cannabis company Ascend Wellness Holdings has opened a new store in downtown Boston. The move follows the company's announcement that it is going public via an initial public offering of some 10 million shares of its Class A common stock at $8 per share, and its debut on the Canadian Securities Exchange set for Tuesday, May 4th under the ticker symbol AAWH. Ascend received the Massachusetts Cannabis Commission's approval to launch the 16,000 square foot pot supermarket last week. The new shop, physically the largest dispensary on the East Coast, is offering a wide selection of high-quality cannabis products, a digital ordering experience, and knowledgeable budtenders in a safe environment, as per Ascend's website. Consumers can order products online or speak with a budtender for assistance. Greenlane and Kushco announce future enterprise leadership team for proposed combined company. April 30th, 9:50 a.m. ET, Globe Newswire, print. Greenlane Holdings, Incorporated, Greenlane, NASDAQ, GNLN, and Kushco Holdings, Incorporated, KushcoX, KSHB, today announced the enterprise leadership team that will helm the proposed combined Greenlane and Kushco businesses following the consummation of the proposed merger, the transaction. As previously announced, Nick Kovacevic will lead the combined company as Chief Executive Officer. Greenlane's Bill Mote will serve as Chief Financial Officer, with Greenlane co-founder Aaron Lacascio serving as President and Greenlane co-founder Adam Schoenfeld serving as Chief Strategy Officer. Additionally, the following executives will join the combined company's enterprise leadership team, reporting to Nick Kovacevic. Additional senior leadership positions of the combined company will be named at a later date. We are thrilled to be assembling a best-in-class leadership team, with decades of combined experience in cannabis and CPG. Collectively, we will form a leading ancillary cannabis company in our industry, said Nick Kovacevic, Kushco's co-founder, chairman, and chief executive officer. This team is fully capable of leading the combined organization and executing on our core strategies, which include building a world-class product and service platform, cross-selling to our complementary customer bases, and providing enhanced value to our amazing customers as they continue to expand and as the industry continues to evolve. This is an exciting and major step forward in the integration planning process, and I look forward to continue working with the rest of the leadership team to complete the planning process, build upon our high-performance teams and people-first culture, and set the combined company up for success starting on day one. The companies anticipate that the transaction will close by late second quarter or early third quarter 2021, subject to the satisfaction or waiver of all closing conditions, including the receipt of all necessary regulatory and stockholder approvals. MindMed's NASDAQ listing enables institutions diversified access to a new age of medicine. April 30, 9:05 a.m. ET, Benzinga. Mind Medicine, MindMed, Inc., Nasdaq, MNMD, NEO, MMED, a leading medicine biotech company in psychedelics, this week began trading on the Nasdaq exchange. In light of the momentous occasion, Benzinga spoke with MindMed co-founder and CEO J.R. Ron, as well as board member Kevin O'Leary, author, investor, Shark Tank star and co-founder of O'Shares ETFs. What to know: mental health doesn't discriminate. That's become apparent given the pandemic which devastated the economy and left millions unemployed. With traditional mental health care infrastructures in the U.S. being outdated, demand for new, alternative solutions, those without acute adverse effects such as abuse and dependence, has picked up. MindMed, which is focused on the medicinal value of psychedelics, is believed to have the answer by many, including Kevin O'Leary, who backed the company in its early stages. "I've been involved with the company for almost 3 years," O'Leary explained. "When I first heard of this idea from JR, I thought he was nuts. But he convinced me, and he has been 100% right in every milestone of the journey." Dubbed the Tesla of mental health, MindMed, through proprietary research, some of which was conducted in collaboration with the laboratory of Professor Dr. Matthias Liechti, the world's leading psychedelics, pharmacology and clinical research group at University Hospital Basel, in Switzerland, has helped destigmatize and deploy psychedelic solutions. In a move to bolster innovation and allow investors a chance to participate in the new age of medicine, MindMed listed on the Nasdaq, a brand that supported firms like Apple Inc. and Nasdaq, AAPL, Alphabet Inc. and Nasdaq, Google and Microsoft Corporation and Nasdaq, MSFT, at their earliest stages. "It was definitely a long process to get here," Ron noted. "Because of the high listing standard, Nasdaq will be a great place for us to find capital to allocate to these unmet medical needs." What does it mean? At the outset, Ron had difficulty conveying the prospects of medicinal psychedelics, an asset class of its own, to venture capitalists. They couldn't see past the fact that these were psychedelics, even though there was so much promise in the underlying academic and scientific data. Fast forward a few years, MindMed, in partnership with leading research entities, is building a sustainable infrastructure to develop and deploy FDA-approved psychedelics. In the last year, the company began the first-ever clinical trial on MDMA and LSD combinations, launched Albert, a division to research and develop an integrated platform for delivering psychedelic medicines, experiential therapies, as well as digital therapeutics, and acquired Health Mode, a digital medicine and therapeutics startup. "We continue to progress our Project Lucy," Ron noted in reference to the company's experiments with LSD therapy for anxiety disorders. "We also continue looking at programs and trials that we have in the academic realm, with our various collaborations with the University Hospital Basel, and what we can take from that data, both on the MDMA and LSD space, and translate that into commercial drug trials." Initial reaction: the response has been overwhelmingly positive. Investors, cognizant that MindMed has created a new paradigm in how mental health is treated, are creating pages like MindMed Investors Club on Reddit to dissect and support the company's achievements in a public forum. MindMed even caught the attention of the famed Wall Street Bets Reddit forum, a group of investors looking to capitalize on opportunities with high potential for reward. "There is a very passionate shareholder base that is looking for returns but also wants to change mental health," Ron added. "This is really the advent of conscious capital." Now that the company is listed on the Nasdaq exchange, institutional investors will be more inclined to allocate sufficient capital to the nascent, so-called junior pharma space. When you want to be validated by institutional clients and sovereign funds, which spend a lot of time researching sectors they want exposure to, Nasdaq is the place, O'Leary said. "It's an unwritten rule." Why it matters: aside from validation, diversification is a key barrier to investing for smart money investors and institutions. Institutional investors, especially in junior pharma, are looking to mitigate risk and weight according to diversity across a few key metrics, according to O'Leary. "Every time a new company comes to market, I ask myself how many molecules, how many trials, what's the diversification in terms of what molecule they're testing, and what mandate they're pursuing," he said, speculating that MindMed could achieve a superior market cap because of its diversification across those metrics. MindMed has so many clinical trials, 17 plus, O'Leary explained. Most other companies have very few trials, they're betting the farm on 1 or 2 molecules, and that's much riskier. Innovation outlook, thus far, O'Leary says Ron, who practically founded the sector, has been right about the geometric growth, state-by-state legalization of psychedelics for medicinal purposes, and acceptance by the public. Going forward, though, MindMed is looking to accelerate progress across its clinical trials, as well as expand its pipeline with additional trials and platforms to deliver medicines. There's a drug development side, and then there's a technology platform side, Ron said. We need to coalesce both into building MindMed into a leader in mental health. MindMed is now trading on the Nasdaq and is accessible across all brokerages with access to U.S. markets.
All right, thank you very much. That was a great story. MindMed, I'm looking pretty hard at that, I'll be real honest with you. Just got uplisted to the Nasdaq last week, I think it was. Price has kind of settled out somewhat this week. I'm looking at probably taking a position in it coming Monday. I like the fact that O'Leary's in it. He's been in it for this long. Extremely positive from the sounds of this recent story. So, yeah, it's probably going to be my play coming forward this week. I've heard a lot about this and, been kind of keeping my eye on it. And for me, I think it's time to pull the trigger on some MindMed. So I'm going in with some MindMed probably Monday morning. Other than that, this has been a huge podcast, a lot of stories packed in here. Again, had to switch things up with some equipment issues I had here at the studio. Had to rely more on my virtual readers, which they are always great to have and add a lot to what I try to do here. It keeps it from having just a monotony of me all the time. I really appreciate everyone listening again all over the globe. We've been in 30 countries all across the United States. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in, spent some time listening. My hope, above all hopes, is that you've enjoyed the show. Maybe have learned some things, maybe opened yourself up to some new tickers, and helped your own research. And if you ever have any questions about what I do, please, give me shoot me an email. I'll be glad to tell you what I do here. It's not anything real serious. We just look for cannabis news. And there's just certain ways to do that, and that works for me. And this, as I've said before on many podcasts, this show is really just about me sharing my research into the cannabis sector with like-minded people. Okay? It's a pretty niche podcast. I knew that going in. But there are more and more people interested in the space with legalization efforts and everything. So hopefully it can be a nice little platform for people to kind of absorb some news, learn about some new tickers, learn about the stuff going on with companies they may track or may invest in or trade. So I just look forward to keep doing them. Have to apologize for last week. I didn't get much done. I had my second COVID shot, which really crushed me. I was down for 24 hours and could barely move. Didn't care for that, but back up at it, 100%. Feel great. Glad to have that behind me. Again, thanks again for listening. I really appreciate it. You've been watching or listening to the Johnny Fongo Show. I'm Johnny Fongo. I want you to have a profitable day.